there's a lot of situations in life that you'll go through something and it feels like reality is being pulled out from underneath your feet. And a lot of us just don't have the necessary skills or the knowledge to actually get through these difficult situations in our lives. Because I find what a lot of people do instead when they're going through something difficult is they try to run away from their problems, they try and distract themselves or escape it. And this really contributes to the problem. There's nothing wrong with going out and trying to have a good life, right? We want to have some sort of eventful life, but there is a line that we can cross where it becomes an act of escapism. So, especially in today's society, I find many of us have this ADHD brain where we are constantly trying to distract ourselves, not because we find any pleasure or joy in those things, or well, maybe we find some pleasure in it, but pleasure isn't joy, pleasure isn't happiness. So we end up, doom scrolling on Facebook. We end up just watching countless videos, video after video after video, or engaging in just different things all the time that we never actually go inwards and just experience consciousness. We never just sit with the experience of consciousness, which is what is really important to do when you're going through something rough. When you are constantly looking outwards for your life, you are not actually getting to the root cause of why you are feeling a certain way. And when you are constantly just, doing something to distract yourself, just doing some sort of activity, even if it's something productive, you're not getting into those feelings and those emotions that you need to experience for your own growth, for your own evolution, for your own happiness. When you go through something difficult in life and you find that the blanket's been pulled out from under your feet, it's really important in these moments to slow down, okay? So I always advocate for spending a lot of time meditating and just sitting with your own feelings. So how weird would you say it is these days to actually just sit there for a good couple of hours and not do anything? Just look at a wall. Because if you're like most people in today's society, you probably think, well, that just seems weird. Why would I sit there and look at a wall for a couple of hours and do literally nothing, or sit outside in the garden for a couple of hours and do literally nothing, just look and just think, when, we live in a busy world, shit needs to get done. I could be working on my avocations, I could be reading a book, I could be hanging out with friends, I could be using this time for something productive. But part of our little ADHD brains, which are formed by today's society, by the way, which are a product of our society. It's not a product of who we are by any means. This encourages us to always be on the on switch and to always be doing something, regardless what it is, because we're trying to distract ourselves from feeling the real feeling of human experience. And that's what it really comes down to, because we are afraid to go into ourselves and to just experience, because that's when all these dark, scary thoughts start coming up, and we need to start confronting our inner demons that we've probably put off forever or a very long time. And until we actually start going into those darker, deeper parts of our consciousness, just by sitting with the experience of consciousness and slowing down and not necessarily doing anything, that's when we really start to dredge up all of this shit that's been plastered underneath us, or plastered within us. And that's what we need to confront when we're going through something difficult. Because first, I need to distinguish the difference between situational happiness and authentic happiness. So, situational happiness is when you feel good because things are going well in your life, essentially. So, you have the right circumstances and the right conditions to feel good in your life. So, this might mean, you're doing really well in your job and you're making a lot of money. You've got a nice place, you've got a good partner, and life is just going well. And there's nothing wrong with aspiring to have a good life, with having these things, with having a nice house or a nice car or a nice job or a good partner. Like, in fact, we should be striving for these things. We should be striving to have a good life because, that's sort of what it's about. That's sort of what this human experience is about. But when we base our sense of happiness on those things without actually internalizing it and saying, if everything was stripped away from me, would I still be a happy person? To which the answer is usually no. This becomes a problem because it means your happiness is situational. It means that your happiness is dependent on something else or someone else or just a sort of circumstance in your life, which if it's taken away, God forbid, then, the whole house of cards is going to come tumbling down. So when this happens, life is going to feel really shit and you're going to start scrambling to put the pieces of your life back together to recreate that situational happiness so that you are deceived into feeling that you are happy, or you are deceived into feeling that your life is good because from the outside it looks good, because you are tricking the ego, you are tricking a part of your mind that is telling you your life is good, but you are not actually being authentic with it. Because true happiness is when you can maintain your sense of happiness and composure when everything goes to shit, and when your whole life has been stripped away from under your feet. Can you still experience happiness? Can you still feel composed in those situations? Let's say you had to move back in with your parents or something. You lost your job, you lost your partner, things fell down, and you had to move back in with your parents. So that's not a super uncommon situation. We do go through that. But put yourself into that frame. So visualize that, imagine it, and can you think to yourself, would I actually still be okay if I'm in this situation? And if the answer is no, if you feel like no, like I really would not be okay in this sort of situation, then it's important to go inwards and really address what's happening inside yourself. And this is part of what it means to cope, because once you start going more into your own consciousness and you start spending more time just figuring out your own thoughts and beliefs and understandings, you realize that no matter what happens in your life, if you get to the bottom of it and you actually feel healed, then you will be okay and you feel much better. So when you are going through a difficult time, I always suggest that you meditate. So, you don't need to do it for a long time, but just sit there for a good 10 minutes if you can in silence. You don't even need to close your eyes if you don't want to. You can just sit there looking at something. Often I do it with a flame or, with a candle or something, and just sit there watching the candle or watching the fire. Or, if not, just close your eyes and sit in a comfortable position and just think. That's really what it is. You just think for a while, and once you maintain that state, and you actually go through and you start mentally organizing all this shit that you're processing in your life, that's when you start experiencing these deeper states of consciousness. If you never meditate, if you never spend time with your just self, with your own experience of self, then this is going to be a tricky process. And when something happens in your life, it's going to be a tricky process to actually pick up the pieces, and you're going to panic, you're going to freak out, and you're going to wonder, what the hell is going on? Like your sense of happiness is going to plummet because your sense of happiness is perched on a situation. It's not because it is authentic to who you are. So it is important to really just spend time with your experience of consciousness. And I teach this a lot. This is what I go through with all my clients, is really just being comfortable with your experience of consciousness for whatever you are experiencing, for whatever situation you are in. And once you train that muscle to actually be okay with who you are and where you are, that is when you really start actually feeling wholesome. You start feeling more complete in yourself, because you realize you're not just trying to distract yourself. You're not just trying to escape. You're actually living a genuinely happy life when you can sit with yourself, for better or worse, and actually just feel that experience of consciousness. You know, I tend to spend a lot of time in my life just processing whatever is happening. If something doesn't go my way, I'll sit down with it, I'll process it, I'll allow these thoughts and feelings to come up. I'll allow myself to feel like a piece of shit for a little while. But as long as I actually allow those feelings to come up and to process everything that I'm experiencing, then that's when they start to disappear. That's when they start to fade away. And you'll find, oh, naturally, I actually feel sort of good. And you're not forcing anything. There's no forcing current there, which is the beautiful thing about it. You need to sit with your own emotions. You need to really spend more time just being present with the experience of life, with the experience that you're having, for better or worse. And especially when you're going through some dark shit in your life or you're experiencing some trauma, don't distract yourself. Really just spend time sitting with yourself. That's all you need to do. You need to just slow down and really feel into the experience that you're having. And the more you do that, the better you're going to feel, the more you're going to process stuff, the more you're going to heal from these wounds. And you'll find that no matter what situation you go through, it's all going to be okay at the end of the day.